Okay, what's up everybody? Today I am modifying several mice. These are for two of my friends on Discord. One of them supplied the Super Glide and the Pulsar to another friend who's getting married, and along the way he let it stop off at my house so I could review it and then modify it. There's a NP-01G that we're also throwing in that box and going to Mr. Soon to no longer be Bachelor. And then for the guy who donated the X-Lite, we're making him a Skoll Mini with the Sakura design on it. We're going to do some mods to improve this guy because I'm a terrible person and I know he wants to get the X-Lite Mini, but I want to give him something that is wired and yet very light and so much better in terms of click feel that he ends up using this instead and complains nonstop in Discord about having a wire on his mouse still. So, ceramic skates, anyhow. I wanted to paracord this one, but the Skoll uses a micro USB cable instead of a normal paracord, so I couldn't find one that would guaranteed fit in their little proprietary connector. But for the Baxi mouse, we're going to make this purpley glorious cable fit as a paracord because we can, and because I think it'll look better, and because it will be softer and more flexible. So yeah, start in the middle because I didn't want to twist the whole skate. That's just a recipe for bad things. Okay. Well, it did come off in one piece and it didn't break, but I can safely say I was not expecting it to go flying across the room. Holy crap. Alright. If that's how these come off, then I'm gonna put my hand over it. Hopefully it doesn't go flying quite as far. And then continue to pray to the luck gods. Okay. There we go. I don't see any cracks or anything on them, which is very good because, well, I don't have any replacement skates for this mouse, so that would have been really bad if those had gotten damaged. Oh, I don't have my screwdriver set in here. You know what? Actually. Since I've got to take off all of these skates anyway, well, apparently I didn't need to take off the front skate on the X-Lite, but you know, whatever. We're gonna take all of these stock skates and attempt to place them somewhere where they can continue to live on without their adhesive surfaces being exposed to dust and other particles temporarily. And go. Again, another one with no screws up front. 2. And the NP, one which I'm most likely to damage things on. Thankfully, I have 2 sets on hand of Tiger Ice skates that will fit this guy, so no biggie. When I invariably, yeah, these Vaxee skates don't like coming off without being bent in some very strange ways that are difficult to bend back later. And they're super thin, and so they take like a little bit of a crease, and there's just nothing you can do. They're really, really easy to crease. Yeah. I mean, theoretically you could reuse those if you needed to, but thankfully I don't. So, in the bin. Basically same thing. Goodbye. All right. So let's see. Before I get started, I'm going to split this recording out and make an initial click test of each of these mice be their own little segment, such that I can open it up and watch it when I'm halfway through modding all 3 of them and I've forgotten what their clicks sounded like or felt, to give myself some type of a reference point. So this scroll wheel sits slightly off to the left side, and generally speaking, it feels to be one large block of sort of soft rubber with a large divot pattern to it that's sort of reminiscent of the Glorious mice. So not my favorite look, although offhand I'm not sure what I have that I could even consider swapping it out for, so hopefully I can identify something to do. That will be an improvement, but anyway. These clicks are really good. They're crisper in feel and more tactile than the Vaxee clicks without being significantly heavier, which is really impressive. So anyway. Yeah, really been impressed by the button quality of the Skoll. The only thing basically is the encoder action is like average, not amazing, and the texture of the scroll wheel itself basically. But I mean, these are perfectly good thumb buttons, and these are good main clicks. They can be slightly better, you know, blue shell pink dots will buff this up even more, but for a mouse that comes with Omron 20 million OF, you know, high tactility variants, these are good out of the box. The only thing I've seen reports of these getting weaker and mushier over time. I think you can find a video on YouTube of Ents modding one of these for boardsy, I think. Anyway. Okay, screwdriver set acquired. Let's see, J1 or J0. Those are very solid, but could be oversized. J1s so far. Confuse myself moving all this stuff around. Okay, how are we doing, Pulsar? And we've taken the screws out, so now it's time for you to begin revealing the placement of your umpteen different little plastic clips that you're using to hold this shell together. That will frustrate me to no end in trying to disassemble it. Okay, well, teardowns for the old one just say take the two screws out and have the shell come apart easily, so I can't find any specific instructions about the new one. So this is going to be a bit of an adventure. I suspect it will work like the Model D wireless, but yeah, I don't really like that because, well, these plastic clips help make the mouse feel like the two halves of the shell are secured quite solidly. The drawback is, in order to open it, you basically have to pry apart here. And if too much force gets used, you can actually distort the shell. I did this with my Makalu the first time I swapped the switches on it, or when I swapped the switches on it, and I put it back together, and it was, you know, it physically fit back together, but there was this little bit of flex that now would happen every time I grabbed the left side of it. And it was really annoying, so I ended up taking it apart again later to put fabric tape in around the lip where the two halves of the shell fit together to fill up that gap. And so now, you know, finally it's back to having this feel of being a solid and complete object when it's reassembled. But again, because I took it apart once, I had to go back and do a sort of specific, you know, sort of modification or repair to it to get it back to feeling how it was before I opened it the first time. I would much rather see a world where we just use, you know, 4 screws and a better tab system here to lock the two halves of the shell together and not rely on these clips that way. I don't know. Anyway, okie dokie. So as you can see, there's really not much to do with the side switches. Like genuinely, I don't know what you would do if you don't like them, because I have no clue what you can even swap these out for. But thankfully we can do something with these GM8s and hopefully do something about this click feel. It's not bad by any means, although it was slightly under tensioned on the right click before I disassembled it. And I believe these particular GM8s are slightly underwhelming as far as GM8s go. But that would be a good thing to check. What's that cliche? When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I got a tension dial gauge finally for bending my switches. And so now I'm going to use it to try and test these GM8s. Let's see. I guess I kind of have to decide between seeing it myself or showing it to the camera. Maybe you guys will want to see after I measure it. Yeah, okay. See if I can figure out how to show the camera here. You guys see that? Yeah. So that's about a 60 gram GM8, which is lighter than average for this particular switch. And that means we've got a lot of room to beef up these clicks without doing anything drastic to the shell design. Just, I guess, for reference, looking at blue shell pink dots, most of these were 66 or 68 grams force. And if you remember from some of my other videos, I've mentioned the lighter that a switch is relative to average for other switches of that same model, the less tactile it will also tend to feel. So if you get a lighter than average version of that switch, it will be like a less crisp, less tactile example as well, typically. This can be helpful if you normally would feel, say, that GM8s are too crisp, too tactile. These would feel slightly less so. Although if your goal is to have a nice switch which doesn't have those same considerations, then perhaps, just some GM2s or something like a Huano blue shell white dot would be potentially a significantly better option, because you can use, or black shell pink dots, because you can use a good example of that particular switch instead of relying on a weak example of a GM8. But anyway, but first we got to swap the switches. Oh yeah, I should check how stiff the right click GM8 is, because it was a bit stiffer. That was feeling. So the other reason I want to check this, the right click felt closer, not quite there, but closer to the amount of force that seemed correct for this shell. Okay, yeah, this is only about 62 grams force. Maybe not even that. Maybe it's about the same stiffness as the left click. Okay, so now neither one is particularly different in terms of stiffness. That's fine. All right, so next steps are make sure that the skates are out of the way. Make sure that I'm not blocking myself off from the soldering equipment. Okay, and then we're going to move this. I swear it sits crooked half the time. All right, soldering station on, and then helping hands, cleaner, solder antenna thingy, so probably don't want to clamp onto that if I can avoid it. So let's use the USB-C port. Let's see. That'd be workable. USB-C port here. And then I'd have to spin it a bit. And then what's back here on this side? Okay, I can go a bit forward from there, and then that will be a pretty good spot to clip onto, it looks like. Okie dokie. Okay, so these holes too. Yeah, okay. Beefy boy tweezers are not on the menu for removing GM8s. Gotta use those guys, which absolutely makes he's reasonable anyway. Get the tension tile gauge out of the way. Okay. Right. How are we doing? If I want to tug this, it's not too bad. Okay. So let's see. Reminders to self. This is a lightweight mouse with a thin PCB for weight saving reasons. The goal is to avoid putting excessive heat into the circuit board. That front pin is already annoying, I can tell. Ugh. All right. So, since that front pin seems to take longer to heat up, we'll try to span the rear two, melt those, and then melt the front after. Yes. Come on. That's lifting up back here. How can I? Okay. Clean that. Put that there. Right. So. Why is it doing this? It's doing this because that little knob there is not tight enough. And that little knob there, being not tight enough, can be addressed with a set of pliers. If I called these tweezers earlier, I am dumb, by the way. Anyway, that should be significantly better with regards to it not randomly collapsing every time I tug on it. Good. That gives me a little bit more ability to try and work it to get the switch out. Okay. Tweezers in place. Solder is melted. Solder is not wanting to melt up front. Come on. How has it got this much thermal capacity? It's a tiny little PCB. What did you do with your thing, Pulsar? That took forever to heat up. crazy. Alright, anyway, that happened, I guess. Now let's clean up the pads. Some fresh solder. Get it on that pad. Good. And then we're gonna slide it over so those pins are centered. We'll do the front and the rear. And then we've got one Huano blue shell pink dot. Yep, cool. Okay. Here we are. Let's get a big enough, slightly crooked. Don't mind, since I should only need one good sized square for this. Nevertheless, tweezers. Hold, peel. Come on, fingernails. There we go. Alright. That should be about there. Plenty big. And then we're gonna smash that on top of there. There we are. So hopefully that will address some of this rattle. And I will turn that sufficient amount of board, probably. Let's see. Let me think this through before I make any rash decisions. So, I do already like the scroll click, and my problem with the scroll encoder of this mouse is that I wish the steps were more defined, not smoother and less defined, or quieter. That means, in summary, there's not a good reason for me to lubricate the scroll wheel on this mouse. And there's no reason for me to try and bodge a change of the scroll click switch either. And I don't have the parts to do anything about the thumb buttons. So in short, I've done what I can other than button tensioning work. So that leads us to this point, which is essentially just going to be putting the screws back in, closing the shell up, testing the click feel, and determining whether it's correct or not. So, that guy, come on, back on there. You can do it. There you go. And then clip. Go, come on. I said clip, not just one clip. Jeepers, okay. And then, how's the clicks? How are we doing? is pre-travel there, but it's not rattle. Cool. There's a tiny amount of something that kind of feels rattly over here. And the sound is a bit underwhelming. Yeah, that's too different, I think. I want to just feel like, okay, cool, but yeah, no. I am unhappy with the sonic results of that decision. So anyway, just going to put some aluminum tape on the other side as well, and then we should probably be good to go, actually. If it turns out the way I'm hoping. All right, piece of aluminum tape, where are you? You are. Please give me another sizable chunk. And then take tweezers. Okay. So you really, sorry about blocking the camera. Just trying to make sure you guys can see when I'm fiddling up here slightly, as opposed to only when I'm literally down on top of the mouse. Okay. Cool. And let's see, that's on this side, and it's not proved to be an issue already. I was just trying to make sure that these little foil pieces aren't going to be riding against the let's see. I'm trying to think if I should put something in here to try and space that out. That way, you'd have to put it once and try that. Okay, something about this look is just really kind of Okay, those are some healthy clicks that are attentioned as well as I can manage, given the resources available. All right, that is one of three finished. Oh, hang on. It will be better and even more finished if I remember to put the screws back in. Aha. getting stuck to the microfiber cloth. That's not okay. Come on, little super glides. You can do it. Okay. Don't. The adhesive on these is curious in nature. It doesn't really have any like initial grab. Like you can plunk it down on the plastic and it just slides around really easily. But then when you apply some force, it kind of goes from not grabbing at all to suddenly grabbing quite a bit. It's a strange sensation. Anyway, let's try to casually press them into a reasonably flat surface without mashing them to bits and breaking them. Cool. So there is one wedding present from Reed and I to Ms. Have fun, buddy. Then this one is my additional part of it, since that was, you know, I didn't exactly pay for almost anything you saw there other than the switches. So okay. Gotta use, please don't strip. Oh gosh. No, okay. I hate the fact that I don't have the correct screwdriver bit for these screws. Man. Anyway. There we go. Oh look, so much easier to open when there's no arbitrary... Well, okay, I was saying so much easier, but then this stress relief appears to be interfering with letting the two halves come apart properly. Oh, jeepers. Okay. At least it didn't break anything. Good job, me. Carefully separate the ribbon cable. Okay. Good. None of those are obviously mangled. Okay. Anyway. Right. So, having tested several different switches on my outset, I know that Vaxee does a good job of picking their switches out of the box. I had some thoughts about swapping these to blue shell pink dots as well, but I thought that having some more variety would probably be of interest. So rather than doing that, I will take the approach of leaving the stock switches in because it's a Vaxee product and they have really good stock buttons. And instead, this will be a relatively simple job where I figure out the best way to install that paracord and then throw some Tiger Ice skates on here. I would do more, but, well, as you can hear and see, these are already quite well tensioned. So, not really much room for improvement. And I would probably spend rather a lot of time and energy making myself frustrated, only to end up pretty much right back where I started. So, okay, pull this guy loose, rotate the scroll wheel assembly out of the way, and there. So here, I have to look at this guy and try to understand how the stress relief fits. So let's see, those are about the same length, that's fine. Will you fit in there with basically no modifications? To appears to be the answer of probably not. Okay, so why not? Mostly, all right, you guys will want to see this from more up close, huh? So looking at the actually grab my needle nose pliers and try to fish this guy out. Again, absolutely don't squeeze too hard with the pliers. You're just gonna destroy stuff. Okay, yeah, there's those little tabs in there that are not coming loose yet. This is definitely a three-hand job. One to grab, one to prod the little clips, and one to pull. Oops. Yes, yes. Come on. You guys can't see. Try this once more. Hey, we did it. Okay, now we very carefully set that out of the way. All right, so anyway, these are the stress reliefs for the two. And as you can see, if I get them lined up just right in front of the camera, the Glorious one is actually thicker. It's probably not focusing at all, huh? Yeah. So the glorious stress relief here is thicker than the Vaxee one in this area. I don't know about this size. Yeah, those look pretty similar, I think, in terms of the overall dimension. What would be a good way of checking that? Would probably be how well that fits in there. Okay, you can see that doesn't quite fit in that little hole there. That's the bit that this guy's gotta be able to just barely slide into. Let's see, yeah, like that, like that. So if I can't do that with the glorious stress relief, then I have to continue trimming away at it down in that area near the base. Okay, got it. So this is the point where I go and break out. Oh, and the other thing you can see here is look how much taller the glorious stress relief is in that one area. So this is basically where I go and I break out a razor blade and I try to shave down the glorious stress relief in the areas where it is larger than this one, so that I can get it to fit correctly in the same hole. And if I try and fail, like say I cut off too much material or I just horribly mangle things, and this stress relief becomes unusable but the cable's intact, then I'll split the stress relief, peel it off, split this stress relief, peel it off, and then mount the stock stress relief around this cable, so that I can make it fit up correctly still. So, but the goal is to not do that. The goal is to deliver the mouse with 2 intact cables. And yeah. All right, so I wanted to give you guys a bit of insight into what I'm doing with trying to trim the stress relief here. So basically the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at the Vaxee stress relief and saying how thick is this part of it. And then I'm trying to, you see where I've trimmed one side of the glorious stress relief there, and I'm trying to match its width to the Vaxee stress relief. And I think I've pretty much got it on that side. So now I just need to go to the other side and do the same thing. And once I'm done with that, then I will start looking at the total height of it this way, because the glorious is taller that way as well, and figuring out where I can shave material off that part of it from, and basically just kind of whittle it down until it has a pretty similar shape, and then I'll go fit it back into the mouse and see if it still gets hung up anywhere, and try to identify what I need to keep sort of whittling away at until it fits properly. As with most things like this, you can always take away more material, but you obviously will struggle to add it back in. Hey guys, so test fitting here. Looks like I managed to get it reasonably close to the target first time around. We'll see if it fits with both halves of the shell together or not though. Other thing I did was I went through and lubricated the scroll wheel to smooth it out and quieten it down slightly. That basically consisted of dabbing up my PTFE lube on essentially the end of a little poker McDoodle, and using this to kind of push out of the way this spring-loaded pin that pushes against, there are little bumps on the outside of this rubber piece spins, and on the inside of the rubber piece is a plastic piece, and on the inside of that plastic piece are little teeth, and as they spin they bump against a little spring-loaded guy here, and so it goes duk, 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 and that's how you get the actual feedback on this scroll wheel, because the encoder is right here. It's an optical encoder and it feeds light from one side to the other, and every time it sees these little fans on the scroll wheel, every time one of those goes past, it says, oh, there's a step, there's a step, there's a step, there's a step, right? It's like an optical switch. Anyway, so in order to adjust how the scroll wheel feels, you don't push any lube into an encoder, you get it into the haptic system here. And before, when I've worked on an outset, I tried to put the lube in down here in kind of an open-ish slot towards the bottom, and that didn't seem to work that well. By contrast, this seems to have gone better, and this is closer to how I typically would lubricate some other similar mice. So originally I thought this would be a hard approach to take with the Vaxee mice because that slot is small and I can't pull this bit of it out easily, but it seemed to work fairly well. So anyway, yep. So now I'm going to try reinstalling the PCB here. We are. Get some stuff out of the way so you guys can see what's going on a bit better. And then we'll put the screws back in. So the two small screws with the wider heads on them go towards the front, and that's because they kind of have to hold these guys in place, only being able to make contact with about half of their surface area, so they used a larger, broader head to give head of the screw, anyway, such that the total amount of surface area contact with the PCB would be similar to these slightly smaller guys, which are mounted such that the entire surface area of the screw head properly makes contact with the circuit board. Anyway, so don't over tighten it, but also don't be too gentle. Okay, everything appears to be mounted up properly. Click, 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 click. Okay. And then before we put the cable in, make sure all the pins are in the correct order. So towards the top, and we have shield, black, green, white, red. Okay, cool. And those guys will go in there this direction. Actually, I probably shouldn't put that all the way in yet, because if it's wrong, or rather if the stress relief doesn't fit properly, I'll have to take it all apart again and do some more stuff to it. Okay, let's see. Okay, yep, it's there. That fits there, and then this guy is not wiggling around very much. All right, I think we have mission success. Cool. So that means we now return to the process of putting everything back in place. So we have to plug in our paracord cable there. That's plugged in. Okay, great. And then we get to attach these ribbon cables. There's one. There's two. And there's three. And you can go. Okay. And then put two halves of the shell back together. Cool, cool. Swap screwdriver bits back to this one. And then install both of these in the fashion snug enough to do their job, but not in any way attempting to really crank these into place because I don't want to have to figure out how to buy replacements for this. Okay, there we go, and there we go. That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's not going anywhere on accident. Way cool. So yeah, that's ready for some Tiger ice skates when I have a chance to grab them. And then that's number 2 finished. Okay. Put the original cable with it. Okay. Actually, yes, we'll need to do soldering for this one. Don't need a cable because I'm not testing anything. That's wobbly. Go back to J1. And this guy doesn't have triangular bits or screw heads, so thankfully we don't need to use those Torx bits and sort of bodge them. Okay. There we go. There's a little bit of clumpiness toward the bottom of these, so they really cranked those into place at the factory. Intriguing. Right, so the only 2 screws are removed and the thing is not immediately coming apart, so we're back to a Pulsar situation, which is not surprising because this is another sort of a similar clone. Yep, there we go, pop of an EC shape, which is, but it's funny to me because like all these EC clones do this with their shells, but the actual EC doesn't do this. I guess it's a cheap way to increase their perceived build quality while using lighter weight components or something. Anyhow, so as you can see, we've got, wait, what? I didn't know the Sakura. Okay, well that explains part of the clicks then. I just had seen other teardown videos of the other Skoll Mini varieties that had, you know, Omron 20 millions. I didn't realize that this guy already had freaking GM8s in it. Anyway, and then we've got Huano green dots for the thumb buttons, which are, again, perfectly serviceable. Oh no. Well, now I don't really want to swap them out just for the sake of swapping them out, because I know the clicks feel good already. Oh, come on. Alright, where's my tension dial gauge? Let me figure out how stiff these GM8s are, because I felt you could maybe do something to beef them up slightly. Man, I had like this plan. I was gonna make these clicks all better and they're gonna be freaking incredible and I was gonna be so happy. And yeah, that's like a 68 gram forced GM8, so it's perfectly stiff already. Wouldn't really want to try and go for anything much stiffer than that. The right click is like, yeah, like 66, 68. Man, shoot, man. Thought I was gonna be able to make these even better. I mean, again, there's really nothing to complain about here, objectively. I think I mentioned at some point on film somewhere, but yeah, basically these clicks they're just as good as anything else I've ever used. no cap. Like these are as good as my outsets. They're as good as my 703. So yeah. Okay, well, how about the top shell? The clicks, the main clicks, don't need any tensioning work at all. The thumbs, potentially we could put a layer of aluminum tape. That might be good. Anything else I can do here? Not really, no. Not really, no. Shoo, man, shoo. Okay, well, I got at least one thing I can do for this mouse to make it better, which is good. All right, we'll try some aluminum tape on the thumb buttons. Try if I can figure out where I put my scissors. We'll try one layer of aluminum tape. And you know, like it's weird because it's like on one hand, like I wanted to mod the thing so I could be like, "Ooh, look, I modded it and it's really good." On the other hand, it's like I know that it's not gonna get, or there's very low chance of it getting significantly better than this, just based on the click feel, the components that were used, the shell design. Like this is already basically optimized as far as I can tell, at least by my taste. So I'm gonna give it to my friend Reed. Basically say, look, I know I didn't mod it myself, but this is still a very accurate depiction of what I think good clicks feel like on a mouse and what I'm aiming for every time I mod one. All right, well. Not really sure what else to add. Okay. We'll try putting that aluminum tape on the side switches, I guess. That is what there is to do. Yeah, okay, that helped. Yep. Those all work. Okie dokie. There we go. All right, well, on to the one little secret weapon that I had prepared for this mouse, which is some ceramic skates. These are some very small dots. I did not realize we were talking this level of small. Okay. Alcohol pad. Always use scented silica beads. Sure. I mean, it smells nice. Are there like instructions for this or something? Because the way that there is part of something that's attached here and part that isn't is making me curious. Oh, there's instructions on the bottom. Remove currently attached feet. Remove new feet from the sheet. Attach them carefully on the bottom and press down firmly to ensure they fit. Great, that's not what I was looking for. Ceramic skates for mouse .x5. So these, presumably. But if those are the ceramic skates, then what are these? What am I not understanding? Contents contained in box: round ceramic skates, round Teflon skates, round 3mm double-sided tape. Okay, gotcha. Tear off back sticker of ceramic or Teflon skates, then tear off original skates of the mouse, wipe dirt at bottom with alcohol, paste the skates to appropriate position. When the 3mm sticker on the back of the ceramic skates are not sticky, you can remove the old sticker on the back of the ceramic skates and replace it with a new one. Okay, so it does come with tape on the ceramic skates, but it comes with like replacement tape for the ceramic skates, and then these are PTFE dot skates. Gotcha. Well, we've got 6 in total, it looks like. And so far, my experience with skates has been when you're going to use an asymmetrical arrangement of them, the glide seems to work out better if you put more skate towards the back of the mouse than the front. Maybe that's different if you use a different grip style, but I don't know. So I'm going to go based off of my understanding of things from my experience and put 2 dot skates in the front of the mouse and then a total of 4 in the back of the mouse. It is not wanting to separate the sticker from the tape very easily on this one. So maybe so? Okay, that seems to have worked. placements. Okay. I can't get the visual placement to be identical because it's not a symmetrical mouse. The other good part of this actually is that I can put these dot skates on either side, and then if Reed wants to open up the mouse to mess with it, he doesn't have to remove the ceramic skates. That's pretty cool. Oh no. I oriented the dot skate such that it touched my finger with a non-trivial amount of its surface area. I think the adhesive is all fine. Having recently rubbed alcohol all over my hands while trying to clean the bottom of the mouse. Something like that, perhaps, would be decent dot skate placement. So we'll do that. And then 2 more for the other side. Oh, blue, this boat is sinking. There's no sea left for me. Yeah. Dot skate flinging around on the edge of the sticker. Alright, off to the side. Sort of as close to in line as I can get it without covering the whole this. Roughly there. There we go. Got some dot skates. And we go push them down so they get stuck in place. Hold it for 30 seconds. So hopefully I didn't squidgy the dot skates around too much. So I don't think there'll be too much leftover residue on there, at least not in those parts. So there's a little bit right there, but I don't know. A great way of trying to dig it out. Got a bit of it. That's good. If you're removing old skates and you've rubbed the alcohol swab all over everything, and then it still gets dirty and you put the new skates on, it's probably because you're like me and somehow are not able to actually get all the old tape residue off with the alcohol pad. And yeah, fingernail or spudger or something seems to be necessary for doing that. And if you can actually get all the residue removed, it becomes much less prone to picking up dust and hair and stuff on the bottom of your mouse. So there we go. It's pretty groovy. That's a little bit better. Okie doke. So there we have one Wolves Skoll Mini Sakura edition. And get that micro USB cable plugged back in. Okay. And then pack up the dot skate stuff. That should be in there sideways. Oh, this is gonna bug me until I make it happen. Yeah, got it. Anyway, back in their tin. Kind of fun, but a lot smaller than it looks in the Amazon ad, I'll be honest. Okay. Huzzah. So J1, that's J0. This is J1. Just clean it up. Screwdriver bits. And boy, for a day when I started out assuming that I was going to be doing a lot of soldering of new buttons into mice, I ended up doing a surprisingly small amount of it. That's like a third of what I expected. Let's start. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So, as an after comparison, it's the NP-01. Here's the skull. And here's the Pulsar. So yeah, all right.